I'll quickly reintroduce the guests that we have in case you're joining us now. And to my extreme left, we have Kefa Ojijo, who is an advocate of the High Court. We also have Delano Kiilu, who is the Secretary General for PROSAC, a security organ. And also, last but not least, Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. And just before we took the break, we were looking at the events that took place yesterday. There was all sorts of information going round as to what may be pushing or instigating the killings that took place. Of course, this deteriorated to some chaos where the police and GSU had to come in and take place. But let me start with you, Kefa. As an advocate, there was all sorts of rumors, but I think it's important for Kenyans to understand that rumors do not necessarily have the truth.
It is true, Gitonga, but irrespective of where the rumors are coming from, the reality remains that innocent lives have been lost. This could be somebody's children. This could be somebody's sisters. Yes, and somebody's, husband. So we regret lives being lost arbitrarily in this country, and the security expert, the government in place who took, the oath to ensure that it protects its citizens, must take sole responsibility with what happens. We have heard stories, police saying that from other avenues, saying that could be maybe a criminal act from other people's or whatever. We know that the only body mandated to be in custody of live bullets in this country is the police, the National Police Service, in the protection. And until they come out to defend this, until they come out to deny this act, we take it solely for them to be responsible. Because remember, the law of evidence states, in fact, there's what we call in legal terms that issues which we say to be judicial notice, that they're so direct, they're so linked to the people who do it, that until they deny that not being part of them.
But Kefa, allow me to pose you, because as an advocate, you purely deal with facts.
Yes.
So I would imagine that for the police to come out and deny this, if they're going to come out and deny, there needs to be investigations that have been done to prove that, first of all, the police were not involved, and then give direction as to what this was. Do you want them to come out and say they're not involved when they've not really verified?
Definitely. This country, this is one of the things that amazed me. In this country, this is the only country where investigations can even be done for 40 years and still there's no answers. I don't know how much time you need to prove a bullet to belong to you and a bullet that do not belong to you. See, we don't know how much time. Many people have been killed, and there have been clear denials all through up to date. Right from 8th August, after the nullification of election, people have been killed. This country, human life has been reduced to a lesser life like that of an animal, you see. And it is a trend that's going, and we are worried as Kenyans because we do not know where this is leading.
Okay.
Somebody must stand and take responsibility. The protection of lives lies squarely with the government. It lies solely with the president. Article 26 is non-derogable. You cannot derogate it, the right to life. And that is one of the positions that when the president swore an oath to this of office, it took a clear oath to protect the life of the citizen and to protect the
Allow me to bring in Delano here, because you're a security expert. What does it entail, or is Kefa right in saying that the police, if they're not involved by now, should already have owned up and said, look, this has nothing to do with us, it's purely a criminal act that was taking place?
I think, Mike, first of all, we need, as Kenyans, to calm down. That's number one. We need to calm down. I think at this particular time, a lot of inflammatory remarks are going out, and the kind of statement that my colleague here has just mentioned is specifically, they can lead to fanning flames that are unnecessary. As Kenya, we are a peace-loving nation. Peace-loving nation. There are 45 million Kenyans, over 45 million Kenyans, that seek peace, that woke up today morning to go and find a way to put bread on their table for their families. And of course, Kenya has been a nation of peace, not just for ourselves, but for the entire region. We have been an emblem and a symbol of peace. Therefore, when the narrative then suddenly seems to change, to say that now Kenya is no longer a peaceful nation, we don't care about human lives, we kill people at will, I think that is wrong. And I think that must be stopped, because somebody is driving that narrative. And I want to say categorically, as Protective and Safety Association of Kenya, that we completely condemn any narrative that is leading Kenya to be labeled as a destabilized, in humane society, because we are, first of all, we are not. Number two, from the perspective of peace making and peace sharing, I think it's very, very clear that in this country we have had many times incidents that have to do with crime, especially in the areas, low-cost dwelling areas. We've had a lot of incidents of crime, but there are other categories that need to be brought very clearly and quickly onto the table. You know, saying that, yes, it is the government's responsibility as far as the peace and the safety of every Kenyan is concerned, that is true. But there are also responsibilities from other organs within the society.
All right, allow me to pose you, Delano, the question here being, we have, within the Constitution, the police are supposed to protect life. We have people that lost their lives on Friday and latest yesterday. The police have not come out so far to give us direction and tell us this is the reason, this is what's happening. It is a criminal act. It's all vague. According to those who are in those areas, some of them say that they saw police. We don't have confirmed reports. What is your take on that? Should the police by now have come out to say that yes, this was a criminal that we shot, or it has nothing to do with the police? How long does it take to establish a bullet belongs to the police?
It can take quite some time, Mike. But first of all, all we have is hearsay. We have third party, second party. We don't have first party information.
And that's why the police should come out and give us now the correct information on the ground.
And I believe that a correct statement will come from the National Police Service, and a clear statement will come, but it has to be evidence-based. I think it cannot be based on any kind of, just analogy that we hear there were police. First of all, there was nobody in a police uniform. There was nobody with a service number. There's nobody captured on that. Secondly, there's no evidence that was captured on any form of camera. The incident occurred around 5 a.m. Thirdly, there has been no forensic ballistic tests to determine what kind of bullets were used and were they fired from a police weapon. Now, and lastly, in this country currently, we have a huge amount of unlicensed firearms. And also we have another category, which is we have about 2,000 firearms in this country, mostly pistols, which people took fake licenses. Yeah, a license for a firearm, if you go through the proper process, which is pretty stringent, costs about 2,000 shillings. So when somebody is paying between 300,000 Kenya shillings and 500,000 shillings to acquire a weapon, then it means that there is something wrong with that particular process, and somebody should question themselves. Now, the Firearms Licensing Board has taken steps to start recovering a lot of these unlicensed or improperly licensed firearms from civilian populace, but you cannot say that the only people in this country who are utilizing weapons are the National Police Service. There are other people, there are criminal elements. I think we had features just recently on the Gaza gang in Kayole, which is not very far from there. And there have been internecine battles between gangs. Residents of Kawangware. I lived in Kawangware for quite a number of years, by the way. And we used to have at night, 10 o'clock up to 1 a.m., there were gunshots, and you go out, you think it's the police. It is gangs battling against gangs, their fellow gang members, trying to win a war of supremacy in the criminal world.
So maybe so that I can come to it. How long should we expect, or how long? Because really, we cannot have investigations and time taken, whereas lives are being lost, and it is also not helping the political and, the temperature that we have in the country currently.
The police should come out with a statement within 48 hours as to the initial information that they have received from the ground, because they receive the bodies, unfortunately, of these Kenyans who have lost their lives, and then they can determine. Also, there are other aspects that need to be checked. First of all, the bodies that have been recovered, do they have their personal effects? Was money taken from them? Are they being correctly identified? There's a lot of processes that do take place. We would expect within 48 hours at most that the police would come out with a clear statement to say this is the current position on what exactly occurred over there. But on the other hand, we also have another scenario, Mike, why is it all of a sudden at this particular point, the day before a Supreme Court ruling in terms of a presidency, that all of a sudden all these things flare up? We have to ask our questions. What narrative is going on right now?
Again, it goes back to the police and the intelligence. Let's come to you, Ambrose Sweda. We obviously have a political problem here in this country, and I want us now to transition to what is expected today at around 10 a.m. That's in, about 2 hours, 20 minutes, where we expect the Supreme Court to give a ruling. But we have a political problem where we have the nation divided. So regardless of the ruling today, really, we should not be waiting for the ruling to solve our problem. There's still going to be a problem even after the ruling. Your thoughts and the way forward.
Thank you. Let me just give me 1 minute to react. Please, security expert and my colleague, you cannot look at a bullet and say this is a police bullet. Get that. You can only tell that this bullet was fired from a gun that is like this. Because guns are international manufacturers. So, you know, this is a Seska, this is a Watt, this is a G3, and you're able to tell. The G3, please,
are you a security expert?
Please allow me to finish. Because when you talk, you mislead Kenyans, and then they think you're right. So you cannot tell that this bullet came from the police, this one did not come from the police. You can only tell that this bullet came from this kind of gun.
Actually, each
and
bullet
please,
has a fingerprint.
let me finish.
It has a fingerprint.
Please.
Each bullet.
Then from there you can tell this sort of guns are in the custody of these people. That is one. Two, when people die, it's a very critical thing. The only people we pay money to ensure that we are safe are the police and the army. So either they tell us who has killed who, or they take responsibility and say we are the ones who have killed. Kenyans have a right to demand and say this kind of killing is bad. We would like to know who. And I know the president is demanding answers. The deputy president said we need those answers quickly. So coming up to say this narrative, there is what? It is the IG and the police, and we give them billions to tell us either have they killed or who has killed. And if they are gangs, we need them to go and smoke out those gangs with guns. If there are killings to be done, go and get those gangs and kill them. The ones who are killing other people, protesters. That is a fact. Three, we expect a decision today. As a lawyer, there are only two ways the decision will be made. One, the court can allow one or both or all the petitions. If it is allowed, the elections will be nullified. We will go back for elections within 60 days. Mm-hmm. The other one that will come out, which is expected, which some of us in Jubilee are praying for, is that the petitions are dismissed. And then if they're dismissed, the president will be sworn in within 7 days. It is true that the country is divided. It is true that some parts of the country don't even hold elections. It is true that some people have closed their fist and saying, resist. That is a fact. It is true that Honorable Raila Odinga had about 6 million people following him. He has very strong followers. So some of us within Jubilee are saying, after the swearing in of the president, we would need and we will plead and we will talk and we will cajole that there is some form of conversation between Honorable Raila Odinga and the other side of the divide for the sake of healing the country. Otherwise, chest thumping and moving.
Let's look at this conversation.
Yes.
What should be in that conversation? Because it is clear fact to Kenyans that Raila and Uhuru probably, if they wanted to talk by now, they have each other's contacts and can communicate. Now, so what should be the content?
The talk here we are talking about will not be on phone hour, you my brother. No, that's not the contention. The contention between President Uhuru and Honorable Raila Odinga is not that they're enemies. It's not that they hate each other. It's not that one is a Kikuyu, one is a Luo. It is about power, political power. Who takes that knife? You see the knife that the president is given when he's being sworn in. Who takes that knife, that sword, that one? That's where they're fighting, and that's where people vote. So if it's given to Uhuru, Honorable Raila will be hurting, but he has his supporters hurting along with him, and he can choose to say, let's spoil for everybody. Let us ban things here.
But
let us kill them.
Isn't that simplistic to imagine that it's just the position that Raila is looking at? There are several things that he is pushing for as a country. And those who support him probably believe in his ideology. So it's not just about Raila sitting on a chair as president.
No, I'm not saying what he's looking for is simply position. But you need position to do all the things he wants.
Okay.
All the things he wants for this country. The vision can only be implemented if he gets that position. And that is why the fight is for the presidency. It is not about anything else. And the president, once he's sworn in, will have to take into account the fact that some people are out. In fact, if you see Honorable Wetangula, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, their complaint is, what will we do? We are out, we have supporters. So we will have a conversation. at two levels. One, this winner takes it all constitution that we created, even after Honorable Raila and the rest, it will still create a problem. We may have as a country to look at it. Look at it this way. For now, Honorable Raila and Honorable Kalonzo have been president and vice president and prime minister. So then they have the lagis and the security from their previous officers. My brother, for you today, if you contested for the presidential elections and you got 9 million votes and the other fellow wins with 10, immediately you finish, you come back without even a policeman guarding you, and that will make the pain. That's why this winner takes it all. We have to
Needs
look
to
at
be
it.
arranged. All right.
Second, finally, just allow me to. The president will have to work on healing the country. Some people feel out. In fact, now last weekend I was in Luoland. Saturday, they feel like they are in another country. And he will have to bring them close. He'll have to cajole them. People have to move again forward. And I think God is on our side.
Delano, your comments on the ruling today?
Yeah, just before we go back to the ruling, you know, currently there are efforts that are in place for the government to set up a forensic ballistic office. And forensic ballistics means that each particular firearm is chambered in a particular way, which means that there is actually a signature or a fingerprint for any projectile that emerges from any firearm. So it is possible for us to actually identify which particular weapon fired a particular, and that technology has been there for many years. But just going back to the Supreme Court ruling, I think it's an important, we are at a place where we have transitioned as a nation. This is the first time that we've ever had to go into a process similar to this. And this is the first time that we're going to have the opportunity as a country not only to just reset, but actually to address bigger and deeper and wider issues. You know, our colleague, Advocate Weda, has traveled, and I have also traveled very much in the last couple of weeks within the country, to very many different corners of this country. And there are needs that can only be addressed by very clear impetus from all Kenyans in terms of development. It's not going to be about the government, because even if you are in lead of a government that does not have the resources to bring the development across the board, then it's not going to work. The counties, again, we have a devolved system and a devolved function. We have to look at, from a devolution perspective, can we actually get counties working? Because today, counties aren't working. In terms of development, there's no county that has development funds. Counties signed hundreds, if not thousands, of agreements between 2013 and today, and none of those have really come up in terms of really key developments from a county perspective. All we hear is that counties are unable to pay salaries because there's delays from Treasury in terms of that. So resources is a big issue. Now, resources cannot grow unless all of us decide as a country that we are going to work towards a common cause and towards a common good and not pull against one another. So indeed, it is important that our leaders now come together, that we do have a place of consensus and communication, but we all realize that unless we pull together in the same direction, then it's not going to be the result that we want for Kenya. Development cannot come unless an entire nation pulls in one direction. The other aspect that we need to realize is that Kenya is and has always been the hub for peace in this entire region. All the nations surrounding us look up to us from a peace and security perspective. Broader to that, there is the international community, not only from the perspective of the global threat of terror, but also from a development perspective that has been looking at Kenya as a beacon of hope for Africa in terms of our development index, ability to grow, and capabilities. And we have to think about all these things in light and in context of whatever decisions we make following today's ruling. We need to, as leaders, be very decisive and very precise. We cannot build a nation based on anarchy. We cannot.
Kefa, we need to wind up and possibly bring this to a close, but your thoughts on the ruling today, because as mentioned, it still leaves a divided country which must somehow be gelled together. I know the responsibility by many has been put upon the president by virtue of position, not by virtue of who he is, but just by virtue of that position of president. Your thoughts on that and possibly what this country needs even after the ruling today?
Thank you, Mike. Just allow me, before I go to that, just to state this, that I'm a bitter person, more so when I see the lives of Kenyans have been lost in a row. The lives of Kenyans have been lost in a row. and leaders do not even stand up to take responsibility for this. People have been killed from yesterday, from Friday, Saturday, and yesterday. The president has not even said a word. And you know, he's the person who is in charge, the custodian to protect the lives and the rights of the citizen. It is very worrying, and I think Kenyans are also beginning to question whether their lives really matter to these positions we put in place.
What is it that you have expected from the president?
Finally, he is the custodian. He swore to protect the lives of Kenyans.
Yesterday.
That is not the president. The deputy president is not the president. The president is present in Kenya. He is here. People are being killed under his watch. He's not said a word. We expect the president to come out and condemn the killings that's going on and to assure Kenyans that their lives are important, and he swore he took an oath to protect it, and that's what he will do. If he keeps quiet and his people are dying, his subjects are dying, are we in a government or we are in a state of anarchy?
So the question is, would you expect him to come out and make a statement every time there's a killing?
Every life matters, Mike. That is his work.
I am not
yes, even if a child is killed today, we expect the president to make a statement on that. These are not ordinary deaths. These are killings with live bullets. We know who owns those bullets. We know who are in a position to have.
Could you kindly tell us who owns those bullets, since you know?
No, we know who are in the custody. Kenyans know that the police are the people who are mandated to have the bullets.
What I would not want us to do is to put a blanket accusation on anyone. Wait, Kefa.
Yes.
You've said we know. So let us not just make a blanket accusation that it is known whose the bullets these are. If you know, tell us.
Mike, even you know that the people who are mandated to have bullets to protect lives are the police.
I know who's
right?
mandated, but I don't know who's
and
not.
that is why I said that if the police are not responsible for this, they should come out and tell Kenya, this is not us, and we are doing an investigation of that. Up to now, nobody has said that. The IG has not come out to condemn and say, this is not us, but we're doing an investigation.
But through
Kenyans need to be assured every time something happens
through their
that the leadership is in
Koome
place.
came out and made a statement. Isn't that
That was
statement
denial.
from the police?
Koome did not even touch. I watched the whole statement that Koome gave yesterday. Koome did not touch on the issue of who are suspected to be doing what or what. He simply called people for restraint. You see, if life is being lost, there is no amount of money or property that is an equivalent to life. That is the first right that comes from the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Article 26, the sanctity of right to life, you see. And this right to life must be protected by whatever means it takes. If those we have put in position cannot come out clearly and explain to Kenyans or assure Kenyans that something has happened, but we are working on it, you see, what do you expect Kenyans to believe? We are in a state that is being governed by a government. We are not in anarchy, but we are now being subjected to believe as if we are staying in the state of anarchy. Finally, allow me to say this on the matter of the Supreme Court. Number one, the Supreme Court today, decision of as a lawyer, I can tell you for free that the decision of the Supreme Court today may not have a big difference for this country. It will not change the mood. It will not change the bitterness. It will not change what is people are feeling right now. Because this court only deals with questions of legality. Now, what is facing Kenya is not a question of legality. It's a question of legitimacy. You see, this is a political question. And political question must be
Let's
resolved.
get to the solution.
Yes.
What solution do you
the
have?
solution that we have as legitimacy, the solution we have is a political solution. It cannot run away that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta must just sit and fix this mess. This calls for all of them. Even if we proceed and swear in Uhuru Kenyatta as the president, the country will remain divided. And until Raila and Uhuru reach out to find a solution for this, we are not going anywhere.
Okay.
And we cannot kick it out. Raila has been in this game for long. He has a huge following for this country. Uhuru equally has a huge following for this country. And they must just sit and fix it. The Supreme Court is not solving a political problem. It is a legal question. And that's why NASA pulled out from it. Because they felt that this is not going to, this is not going to help the situation we are in.
I need us to conclude. Delano, your closing comments.
I think once more we need to avoid any inflammatory remarks, Mike. We need to, at this time, really call for peace, not just for restraint, but for understanding. I think this is not the time for finger pointing. This is not a time for us as a nation to come and attack one another. This is a time for us to reconcile. This is a time for us to mature as a nation. this is the time very much for us to stop saying that this is going to be solved by somebody else and say, I take my personal responsibility to be a peaceful citizen, law-abiding citizen of this nation. Anarchy cannot be the foundations on which a great republic is built.
Thank you. Ambrose Sweda, very briefly, your closing
all I
comments.
can say is those who say they are bitter, my brother, embrace love. The heat that you radiate, you receive it back 5 times. So please start embracing love in your heart. 2, the president cannot be condemning things. He's the one who will be asking questions, asking the IG, the minister. He wants answers. He's not coming out to condemn, and therefore do not demand that he be condemning president. Finally, God gave us this country. It's a beautiful country. We are in his hands, and this country will do well. Those who are naysayers, we are praying for you that after the decision has been done, if the president is given a clearance and is sworn in, they will sit down, they will talk, and the country will be united. God loves us. We are not in a worse position than we were in 2007. Yet we pulled it out in 2007. We will pull it out this one, and Kenyans will sing hallelujah and say thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning on The Way It Is. That is, well, Delano Kilu, who's a security expert and consultant. We have Ambrose Sweda, who is a lawyer, and Kefa Ojijo, who is an advocate. Thank you for joining us this morning on The Way It Is. It's now 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. Time for us to release KTN Home, and those of us on KTN Home, we say goodbye. On KTN News, we'll take a break. We'll be right back, and today being Monday, Robin Toskin is up and ready to take us up on Sports Chat, fill us in on what's been happening over the weekend, sports-wise, but also find out what badminton, yes, I think it's badminton, is all about. So do stay with us right here on KTN News as we prepare for Sports Chat.
This is KTN News.